be too much. The first slide is just a background of what the center does. Yeah, like the earlier speaker said, it's a non-partisan organization, and we're looking at ways we could do things different from what other CSOs are doing towards supporting government and trying to do the right thing. So why did this concept come up? Nigeria is being ranked yearly by Transparency International, by Global Financial Integrity, by FATF, by GIABA is here on different things related to anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism, and all these indexes, unfortunately, we are not doing too well. And it's not because we don't have things in place, but sometimes it's the implementation of things that we have not done well. I would like to draw us back by history. I remember when Mr. Rosa and Mr. Nurubadu here came on board, that's when they set up the structure for us to actually start complying with all these international obligations. So what I'll do now, so what we noticed that a lot of agencies do a lot, but people don't know. And from what the last two speakers said, if you don't have access to information, people will not have the right tools to know how they are being governed. So what we decided to do was to go and do a survey of all MDAs and see, this thing's echoing. Is it fine? Okay. Okay, to survey all MDAs and see all the relevant information by law that are supposed to be in the public domain. So this slide, go to the fifth slide, please. Yeah, we picked variables across MDAs, 483 of them, but we assessed 475, and we picked the states. I'll come to the states issue later. So, what was the justification? The first thing, we tried to draw from the international principles, then cascade it down to the local principles. The first one, as we all know, is the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. There are so many things that every country is supposed to do. I will not mention all of them. But basically, what UNODC tells every country to do is border on efficiency, transparency, and have issues related to open governance. This is under United Nations Convention Against Corruption 2004. The second international principle is the Open Government Partnership, which Nigeria has subscribed to. It's a partner. We have somebody from the OGP office here, I can see him. There are a lot of things we are supposed to do, and all these are related to how open your governments are, related to your budget, your auditing, your finances, your spending, your recruitment, and so many other things that will bring down much later. Thirdly, the Sustainable Development Goals 10 and 16. 16 is clear about developing effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels that ensure responsible inclusion, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision-making at all levels. But in particular, that same 1610 spoke about ensure public access to information. People must have access to information related to everything related to governance. Fourthly, we have the African Union Convention on Prevention and Combating Corruption 2006 is there, and it requires Nigeria to commit itself to ensure transparency, equity, efficiency in the management and tendering and hiring procedures in the public service. Another one is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We know now in 2021 there are a lot of activities towards ensuring gender balance, sex distribution, people with disabilities. We are all signed to these conventions. That's the next one, Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Now, after this, as you all know, the practitioners here, you can gather all the international conventions, the laws, the statutes. You now have to domesticate them into your own local provisions, which I will not go through all of them now, just a few. One, Freedom of Information Act. There are a lot of provisions out there that mandates all MDAs must publish all their information. The ones that are not related, there are some that are excluded, but the relevant information that must all be published. I'll mention a few that may surprise some people. One, you must publish factual reports, inspection reports, and studies. You must publish all issues containing applications for contracts, permits, grants, licenses, and agreements. And all these things, you are supposed to publish it without anybody making a request. That's something that CSOs here need to take over. You don't have to actually request. MDs are supposed to do this. This is FOI too. And one of the things they recommended, which is highlighted, we are not moving together. Okay, one of the recommendations is that all information must be published. I apologize for it. Must be published through, what most MDs do is they publish in the newspapers and people don't really see it. Maybe take 1 page or 2 pages and just publish it. So they are supposed to utilize print, electronic, and online sources, which NIDA has given issued regulations in that regard. The next one is Executive Order 2017. Yes, this was done about 2-3 years ago, where it orders all MDEs to publish, amongst other things, permits, licenses, and other information related to procurement. Okay, then we have the Fiscal Responsibility Act. This is very clear because what is the crux of this one is to ensure timely disclosure and wide publication of all transactions involving public revenues and expenditure. This can be expanded into 10 volumes. Wide publication of all transactions and decisions involving public revenues and public expenditure. This is very clear. This needs to be published. Then we have the Federal Character Commission Federal Character Principle. All MDs are actually supposed to publish their staff, not the names, but how many staff are from each state. They are supposed to publish that information so that they will be balanced in line with the Federal Character Principle. And there is a procedure for recruitment into the Federal Civil Service to reflect every state and I think local government. There's Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Provision Act 2018. I think it's 5% that every MDE must have at least 5% of its staff people with disability. That should be published to every MDE should say, okay, we have this number of people that are persons with disability. Then, okay. In all this, NIDA issued the framework and guidelines for the use of social media and internet platforms for dissemination of information. The guidelines are there. They have been there for the past 6-7 years. And Part 2.9 of the guideline requires public institutions to set up mechanisms to institutionalize social media within their structure. So now I'll go to the evaluations. Good. We took, for the federal MDAs, we took 5 variables. There are so many variables to consider. We took 5 key variables, then 31 sub-variables. The first one is accessibility. Do you actually have a website? That's a starting point. And NIDA law says you must have. Now, if you have a website, the second one is broken links. You can open a website, then you see some pages related to financial information, they are not there. You will see on HR, you will see on the other activities, but you will not see on things related to finance, so we check that. That is the implementation status and the broken links. The next variable is the budget and audit report. What we did here, we evaluated all MDAs to show whether they had published their last allocation for 5 years. That's the first one. We took it from 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, just 5 years, because that was just the benchmark. We just took 5 years. Now, allocation is one thing, budget release is another thing. Have they published, okay, we allocated 10 billion and only 2 billion was released. Now, their implementation, how much percent have you implemented that budget that you have collected? The fourth one, your internal audit report. In the last 5 years, have you been publishing it? Yes, we know the Office of the Auditor General has the complete set, but do you publish it on your website? Then this sub-variable revenue generator is not all MDAs. It's just some MDAs that are revenue generated that this applies to, such as MPA, Nigerian Customs Service, and FRS, and a few of them. Then those same NDAs, do they publish how much they have remitted to the federal government and how much they have retained in the last 5 years? So these are the sub-variables that will do the calculation under the budget and audit. So the first one is the implementation status, your accessibility. The second one is the budget and audit. The third one is procurement. Do you advertise your tender? Yes, most of them do it in the newspapers, but people don't see it. Do you do it online for everybody to see that, look, you're advertising your tender for A, B, or C? The second one, sub-variable, is a list of contracts awarded in the last 5 years. There were 2 NDAs. They actually have a list of all the contractors, the companies. I don't want to name the NDA because it's a highly corrupt NDA, sorry to use that word. But they have all the list of contractors there, the jobs done, the level of implementation, the contractor, whether he has abandoned the project or not, but surprisingly, nothing is happening to that NDA. And they even have the list of contractors, which is a sub-variable too, and the company name and the directors, they are there in that particular NDA. Then the list of people that issued licenses and permits, because this is a huge sector where there's a lot of corruption that goes on there. In licensing and permits, a lot of things go on. And the list of licenses and permits beneficiaries is another sub-variable. The fourth one is citizens' engagement. Now, this was a bit complex to rank because some using social media can be cumbersome. So if you have just one social media account and you respond when people ask you questions and you respond, we can score you, we can give you full marks. If we send emails, we sent emails to all of them, and I can tell you the response was very low, less than 10%. Why not responding to emails? All these things, we did another round just to see whether you interact, and when we sent the emails, was asking these questions. So these are just the basic things under citizens' engagement, and of course you have to be updating your website as one of the sub-variables. Then the last one is a human resource. Information on recruitment of the last 10 years. There are a lot of, just say we have done promotion exams, we don't want to know who passed or who did not pass, that is not public information, but just how many recruitments have you done, how many promotions have you done is supposed to be in the public domain, because a lot of corruption goes on there. Recruitment policy, nepotism issues are here under the recruitment policy. Some are supposed to be advertised, meanwhile some go through the back door. The number of personnel, Nigerians need to know how many staff MDA A, B, C, D have in each MDA. Of course, sex distribution, this is a cardinal principle under the United Nations Conventions. Quota system, federal character principle, disability, Persons with Disability Act, then updated organizational chart. Surprisingly, this is where MDAs 80% were scoring high. Everybody had his organogram there, but no information after that, just organogram. Then you have to have an anti-corruption and anti-bribery policy. After having it, is it well circulated? Have all your staff gone through it? Is there training on anti-corruption and anti-bribery? So that's the last one. So the next is the methodology. Like I said earlier on, 475 MDAs were evaluated. It was done in 3 phases over 7 months, and they were grouped into 11 categories. First, we have the core ministries, 27 of them. Then we have the commissions, agencies, departments, and units. We have the courts and tribunals, examination bodies, then the FCT on its own, then the federal institutions, then the financial institutions. Financial institutions, not banks. There are banks like the Central Bank, Development Bank of Nigeria, Family Homes, NDIC. They all fall under this category. Then we have the military and paramilitary. A few were excluded for security reasons, just about 3 or 4. Then the oil sector, then the research institutions, then we have the reserve-based development authorities, then we have the teaching and specialist hospitals. So I will not bore you with statistics here, but just the evaluation. If you score, okay, I have a statistician. If you score, you have 1 point. In the long run, we sum it up to 100% so that nobody is cheated. Then those that are, there's a sub-variable I mentioned in procurement where you remit money to government. Most MDAs do not remit money to government. It's well taken care of there because in the calculation. So I'll skip the methodology. Some were automated, some use softwares like accessing this website. You can use software, but all the remaining are manual. You just have to do it manual. There's no other way to do it, which we did. Okay, results and ranking. Please, Oga, put the other table. Just leave it, let me find it. Okay. Okay, in the 475 MDAs, the MDA that scored the highest is Family Homes Funds Limited. It's an MDA because it's financed by Ministry of Finance, Central Bank of Nigeria, and I think Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. They had a score of 34.92%, Family Homes, followed by NATI, Nigeria Extractive Industry Initiative. They ranked second with 33.37, followed by PPPRA, 32.48, Development Bank of Nigeria, NDIC, NEC, CBN, NAPTIP, and these are the first 10. We're just summarizing it. I wanted you to display the table. These are the first 10. The table. It will be faster. Okay. Zoom. Okay, put it back. Put the other one back. If you can check, open your report, check page 83. So your page 41 is the overall ranking of all MDAs. On top, you can see a bar, a shade from red down to green. 0 to 44 means very poor. 45 to 49, poor. 50 to 59, good. 60 to 69, very good. 70 to 100, excellent. Unfortunately, most of the MDAs, if not all, under the federal government are between 0 to 44 in this index. Now, it's not that most of them have this information, it's not that they don't have it, but they are supposed to be in the public domain. That is the main issue. So we just hope that next time they will be there. So if you check your page 44, 41, 42, 43, all the MDAs are there. And from number 430 down to 448 actually scored 0, meaning they just had nothing and nothing. So that's all. First table. So what we did, if you go to your page 49, please, page 49. We published the MDAs that did well according to different sectors. Now, under budget and audit, Financial Reporting Council, NATI, Development Bank of Nigeria, DPR, ICRC, Office of the Head of Service of the Federation, all did well under budget and report, under some of the soft variables where they had. Under human resources, Ministry of Aviation, Development Bank of Nigeria, NEC, Central Bank of Nigeria did well under human resources. You can now go to your page. Page 61, please. 61. Now, this is the ranking for people, for MDs that did well under procurement. Family homes, like I said, they actually scored 100% because all the details of procurement are there. PPPRA, NACA, NAPTIC, TCN, Central Bank of Nigeria, NDIC, Nigerian Post Authority, and PENCOM. Just to mention a few, did well in procurement. Then page 65 has to do with citizens' engagement and dialogue. NDIC was number 1, had a ranking of 95%. That's page 65. And finally, sectoral ranking in the first categories I mentioned earlier on, about 11 of them. So under the ministries, Ministry of Aviation is the highest, followed by Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. Under commissions, agencies, departments and units, we have Family Homes, NATI, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NACA, and NAPTIC. Under military and paramilitary institutions, Federal Road Safety Commission is number 1, Nigerian Coastal Service, that's on page 82, Nigerian Immigration Service and Nigerian Police did well. Then under Federal Education and Training Institutions, Nigerian Institute of Science and Technology, Federal University of Agriculture, Zulu, University of Jos, they did well. Teacher Hospitals, National Orthopedic Hospital Enugu, Federal Medical Center Benin-Kudu, did well. This is on page 84. For the oil sector, PPPRA, DPR, NNPC. Under FCT Water Board. Under financial institutions, they all did well, despite the ranking. Development Bank of Nigeria, NDIC, Central Bank, Federal Mortgage Bank, Securities and Exchange Commission, Bank of Industry. Research institutions, VET Institute, the River Basins, very low, that's on page 87. So we have a page on page 88 where all the websites are not found. They actually don't have a website, so you cannot get any information there. So we have them. So thank you very much, and thank you for tolerating me for this presentation. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So the same variables, we took the same variables. The only difference between the federal and the state is for the states, we tried to analyze all the local government. It wasn't possible. Out of 774, only 6 had a website. So there's no point coming here and just putting 0, 0, 0, 0. It doesn't make sense. In reality, we have some politicians here. The local governments are under the state governors. That's the reality. So we decided to rank them or rate them under their states. So any state that has information on its own local government, we give it as one variable. But all the other variables are the same: budget, procurement, and what have you. So, okay, so the first variable for the states, budget. Second one, procurement. Third one, citizens' engagement. Fourth one, anti-corruption law. But the difference here, we already have federal anti-corruption laws. The EFCC is there, the ICP is there. We are not saying each state must have its own anti-corruption body. There are about 6 of them or so that have no problem. But they must have policies on anti-bribery and policy on reporting corrupt activities. It's not all the time that they will be running to EFCC's zonal offices or ICPC zonal offices. Have some framework on ground, on place, that people, or mechanisms that can be reporting anti-bribery and corruption issues. So if you have any of this, we'll still rank you 1. If you have an anti-corruption agency like Kano, Kaduna, we'll still rank you 1, no problem. So then the local government is the next variable. Yeah, you have to have information on all your local governments because like I said earlier on, in reality, the state governors are in control of those local governments. That's just the truth, so there was no need to evaluate them individually. So, the first variable under budget and audit is the 5-year budget line, the same thing, the same methodology we did for the federal agencies. 5 years, BA1, the budget performance has to be there, your audit report has to be there. So there are 3 sub-variables under budget and audit, unlike 5 in the federal MDAs. Then you have 3 sub-variables under procurement. Contracts awarded, you must have a procurement law, then the list of contractors, and some states are actually doing it, and availability of this information online. Of course, citizens engagement. I think there is a rule that you must domesticate the Federal Freedom of Information Act in your state. Every state is supposed to do that, so that must have. The local government administration, your information on your local governments, then your anti-corruption laws, like I explained earlier on, anti-corruption, anti-bribery, anything related to this thing. So, the next is the ranking. Surprisingly, the states are doing better than the federal government. That was our surprise as well. Kaduna State scores 76.6%. Ekiti State scores 73.3%. Kwara State is the third with 65%. Sorry, let me expose my bias a little. I think why the states did well is one of the criteria for foreign loan, IMF, is that you must have your budgets online. And that's why the state government, before they borrow all that money with IMF, they are mandated by law to have their budgets online, their procurement records online, and their audit reports. So it was very clear that they were doing well in most of the states. Those still some did not do well. The least performing, Sokoto and Zamfara, 16.67%. They don't have anything on their website. Another consideration for the states, they don't have all the information on one site. So you have to be going around checking, like when we had that problem. We had a lot of information on like 4 or 5 different websites, but they were all owned by their own state government. So, out of 36 states, 33 had published their budget allocations, 31 published their budget implementation reports, 30 published financial audit reports. 20 states published the list of awarded contracts, 2016 to 2020. 5 states have anti-corruption law or anti-bribery. 3 states have domesticated the Freedom of Information law. And out of the 36, 8 have published information on local government accounts. So I think this should be my final conclusion for this presentation. Thank you.